The wind screamed like a dying beast. Snow blew sideways, thick and white, covering everything in ice. The alien planet of Frosna was not made for the weak. It was cold, cruel, and deadly when the storms came. Viren ran through the snow with her little child in her arms. Her feet were numb, her legs shook. But she kept going. Her child, Lena, was burning with fever and barely breathing. Just a little more. "Baby," Viren whispered, her voice cracking from the cold. But there was nowhere to go. Their home village had closed its doors. No one had helped, no one even opened the window when she begged. "She's sick," they had said. "She'd die anyway. Don't bring her here." Now the storm was here, and she was alone. The sky turned darker. Ice crystals stunned Virene's skin like tiny knives. Her body trembled. She saw a shape in the distance, a rocky hill with a half-broken transport pod buried in snow. Maybe, just maybe, they could hide there. She pushed herself forward, slipping, crawling, holding Lena close. Finally, she reached the pod and kicked open the half-frozen door. Inside was dusty, cold, and quiet. But at least it blocked the wind. She lay her child down on a metal bench. Lena was barely moving. Her skin had turned pale blue. Viren pressed her forehead to her daughter's. "Don't leave me," she whispered, eyes full of tears. Then she heard it footsteps crunching in the snow. Slow, heavy. She peeked through the broken window. A figure was walking toward the pod, tall, broad, wrapped in black gear. A human. She gasped and ducked down. Everyone on Frosna had heard of humans. Dangerous, unpredictable, from faraway stars. Some said they were strong. Some said they were killers. What was he doing out here? Viren grabbed a sharp piece of metal and held it tight. If he came inside, she would fight. The footsteps stopped right outside. Then the door creaked open. The human stepped in, his face covered by a helmet with a cracked visor. He looked around slowly. Then, he saw the child. Lena. He didn't speak. He didn't move. Fast. He only stared for a moment, then took off his backpack. Viren raised the sharp metal like a weapon. The man slowly raised one hand, not to attack, but to show peace. Then, to her shock, he removed his coat, a thick, warm, high-tech human coat, and wrapped it around Lena. What are you doing?" Viren whispered in disbelief. The man knelt beside the child. His voice was calm, low, and strange. "She's freezing. She won't last another hour." Virene's hands trembled. No one else had helped, not even her own people. But this human, this stranger, was giving away his own warmth. She stared at him. "Who are you?" He gave a small smile. "Name's Jack Holloway. I was part of a rescue team, got separated. Beacon's broken. But that's not important right now." He looked down at the child. "She needs heat. Fast." He opened a small device from his belt and pressed it to Lena's neck. It beeped. A tiny blue light pulsed. "Auto heater," he said. "Not much charge left, but it should help." Viren couldn't believe it. This human was helping. Really helping. Lena's small chest moved more evenly. Her hands stopped shaking. Viren fell to her knees beside them. Why are you helping us?" Jack looked at her, snow still melting on his shoulders. "No one should freeze to death," he said simply. "Not a child." Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but inside the pod, there was warmth. A small fire crackled in a corner made by Jack, using a few dry panels and a tool from his suit. Viren sat close, holding Lena. The child had color in her cheeks again. Jack was quiet, watching the door, alert for danger. "You're not like the stories," Viren said softly. He raised an eyebrow. "What stories? That humans are cold. That they only care about themselves." Jack let out a dry laugh. "Guess I didn't get the memo." Viren lowered her eyes. "I've never seen kindness like this, not even from my own people." He looked at her gently. Sometimes compassion comes from unexpected places. Then a low growl echoed from outside. Viren stiffened. Jack stood up fast and grabbed his weapon. "What is that?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. He moved to the window and stared out. A large shape moved in the snow. 4 legs, long tail. Sharp teeth. "Trouble," Jack muttered. "Big trouble." The fire snapped. But it wasn't the fire that made Viren's heart race. It was the growl. Outside. Deep, slow, and close. Like a giant beast dragging its claws through the snow. Jack didn't blink. He was already at the door, blaster in hand, visor down. "Stay low," he said sharply. "Don't move. Don't speak." Viren pulled Lena tight against her chest and pressed her back against the cold metal wall. Then, silence. Nothing but the storm outside. Jack pushed the door open just a crack. Snow rushed in like a ghost. Viren saw his shoulders tense. Whatever he saw, it wasn't good. "It's a stalker beast," he whispered. "Big, smart, knows we're in here." Viren's eyes widened. "Those things are rare, only hunt during deep storms," Jack nodded, "which means it's desperate." He closed the door slowly, quietly. Then he looked around the small shelter. No exits, no windows. "If it tries to break in, we're stuck." A long minute passed. Then another. The pod creaked under the weight of snow and wind. Then a loud scratch. Something was clawing the metal. From the outside. Jack aimed his weapon at the door. "If it gets through, I'll distract it. You run, take the kid, hide." "No," Viren whispered. "It'll kill you." He gave her a small, strange smile. "Better me than the child." Viren couldn't understand him. This man, this human, had no reason to protect them. He owed her nothing. And yet, he stood in front of them like a wall. The clawing stopped. Everything went still again. Then a crash from the roof. The beast was trying to break in from above. Jack looked up, then grabbed the fire barrel and shoved it under the broken ceiling panel. "If this thing hates fire, let's give it a reason to stay away." The flames licked higher, casting strange shadows on the walls. Viren whispered, "You're not just a soldier. What are you?" Jack didn't look at her. "I'm just someone who got lost in the wrong place, but maybe found the right reason to stay." After 2 hours, the growls faded. The beast was gone. For now, Viren didn't speak. She sat close to the child, wrapping both in the thick coat Jack had given. Jack sat across from them, cleaning the wound on his arm. A long slash where the stalker's claws had caught him before he reached the pod. "You're hurt," Viren said, her voice soft. "I've been worse," Jack replied, tying the bandage tight. There was silence for a while. The storm outside still raged, but the pod felt safer now, warmer. Viren looked at him. "Why did you come to this planet?" Jack hesitated. "My team was sent here to help the locals during the winter season. Bring medicine, power cells, supplies. We thought we could handle it. What happened? Ambush. Something, or someone, didn't want us helping. We scattered. I've been alone ever since." Viren lowered her eyes. She thought of her village, the locked doors, the cold stairs. "No one helped us," she whispered, "even my neighbors. They closed their homes and left us to die." Jack looked at her. His voice was low. "Sometimes it takes a stranger to remind people what being alive means." Lena stirred in her sleep. Viren looked down quickly. "She's warmer now," she said with relief. "She's breathing easier." Jack smiled. "Good. She's strong, takes after her mother." Viren felt her chest tighten. She looked at this human and didn't see a soldier anymore. She saw something rarer than heat in a storm. Compassion. But then, blinking red light appeared on Jack's wrist. His eyes widened. "My beacon." "It's working." Viren leaned in. "You can call your people?" "Yes, finally." He pressed a button. The device buzzed with energy. A signal shot out into the snow-filled sky. But Jack's face didn't show relief. "Something's wrong," he said. "There's a second signal, one I didn't send." Virene's voice shook. "What does that mean?" Jack's eyes were hard now. "It means someone else heard the beacon, and they're coming fast." He looked at her serious. "Get ready. We might not be alone tomorrow." The dream felt real. Varen saw her child, healthy and warm, laughing in green fields. Until the sky turned black and a giant claw reached down from the clouds. She woke up screaming silently, her mouth open, but no sound coming out. The fire had died. The shelter was dark and cold again. Jack was gone. Her heart stopped. She sat up fast, clutching Lena, who was still sleeping peacefully. But Jack's weapon was gone. His backpack, too. Only his blood trail remained, thin drops across the metal floor, leading out the door into the blizzard. "No. No." Varen whispered, panic rising. She peeked outside. The wind howled. The footprints were almost covered by snow, but she could still follow them. She looked back at her daughter, torn between safety and fear. Then she saw something beside Lena, a note, scrawled and messy, human handwriting on a piece of old bandage wrap. "Stay hidden. If I don't return by sunrise, run south. Don't wait for me." Her hands trembled. He went out alone. For them. Outside, the snow was blinding. Varen wrapped herself in a frozen sheet and followed the tracks. One step at a time, every few meters. She saw more blood, drops, then smears, then nothing. Gone. The storm swallowed everything, but she kept going. Then she saw a dark shape in the snow. She ran. It was Jack. He was lying on his side, face buried in the snow, his arm bent the wrong way. His blaster was a few feet away, still hot. Near him was a large creature, massive, covered in thick ice fur. Its eyes still open, but lifeless. Dead. The stalker beast was dead. Jack had killed it. Varen dropped beside him. Jack, can you hear me?" He groaned. His lips were blue, his skin ice cold. "I got it," he whispered. "Took its heart with me." Varen didn't understand what he meant, but she saw the torn wound in the beast's chest and something glowing faintly in Jack's hand, a thermal crystal, the creature's heart. It gave off heat. Jack opened his fingers and dropped the glowing crystal into her palm. "For the girl," he said, before passing out. Varen dragged him back through the snow. It took all her strength. She slipped, fell, got up again. The pod was far. But she didn't stop. Her arms screamed in pain, but she made it. Inside, she placed the crystal near Lena. Warmth returned quickly. The child stirred, whispered, "Mama." Tears fell down Varene's cheeks. Then she turned to Jack. His breathing was shallow. She grabbed all the blankets, wrapped him, even used her own shawl. She rubbed his hands, whispered words he couldn't hear. "You stupid, brave human," she said softly. Hours passed. Varen fed him warm drops of melted ice and crushed food tablets from his pack. She didn't sleep. The storm outside faded, but her fear didn't. When Jack finally opened his eyes, she smiled for the first time in years. "You're awake," she said. "You dragged me back?" he asked weakly. "I had to," she replied. You gave us hope." Jack blinked, trying to sit up. "The crystal, is it still warm?" Varen nodded. It saved her. Jack let out a long, tired breath. "Good, then it was worth it." Just as she was about to say something more, a deep hum filled the air. Both turned toward the roof. Not a beast this time. A ship. Up drops. It was here. Virene's eyes lit up with hope, but Jack's face darkened. "That's not my team," he said. "That engine sound is wrong. That's not rescue." The hum grew louder. The pod walls began to shake. Jack stood up slowly, despite the pain. He grabbed his blaster and looked at Varen. "This isn't over yet." Asterisk. The ship landed like thunder falling from the sky. Snow exploded beneath its heavy engines. The shelter trembled. Lena cried out in fear. Jack pulled Viren behind the broken wall and whispered, "Don't move. Don't speak. Don't trust anyone." He didn't look like the same man who once wrapped a child in his coat. Now he looked like a soldier ready for war. The ship door opened with a hiss. Boots hit the snow-heavy metallic. At least 4 figures, shadows with rifles. Not human raiders, alien scavengers. They scanned the area with red lights, talking in low voices. "She's got a child with her," one said. "We take both. The mother's useless, but the kid's worth something." Jack's jaw tightened. Viren's heart pounded so hard at her that she had seen men like this before. Cold eyes. Cruel smiles. They weren't here to help. They were here to take. But this time, she wasn't alone. Jack stood up. Just like that, out in the open. The raiders turned. One pointed a blaster at him. "Who the hell are you?" Jack raised his hands, calm and slow. "Someone who doesn't like you pointing guns near children." The raiders smirked. "You alone, human?" Jack smiled back, but it wasn't friendly. "No." From behind the wall, Viren rolled out a metal pipe, fast and quiet. It hit the lead raider's foot. He looked down too late. Jack lunged in one clean motion. He grabbed the blaster and fired it straight into the next raider's chest. The others shouted, but Jack was faster. He dropped, rolled, and shot again. 2 fell. 1 ran back toward the ship. Jack chased, yelling, "Viren, grab your child and run if I don't come back." Viren held Lena close and watched the fight from behind the shelter wall. She should have been afraid, but something strange filled her chest. Pride. This man, this human, was fighting for her child like she was his own. Outside, the last raider reached the ship and hit the alarm. A second squad would come. Jack didn't stop. He tackled the raider from behind and slammed his fist into the alien's jaw. The ship's doors began to close. Jack kicked the blaster across the snow. Then a flash of light. A small explosion from the ship's side. The engine sparked. Jack ran as the ship tilted off balance from the blast he planted earlier. With a loud crash, the raider ship slammed sideways into the ice. Later, back inside the shelter, Viren pressed warm cloth to Jack's shoulder. Another wound. Another burn. "You're insane," she said quietly. Jack grinned through the pain. "You're not the first to say that." Lena, still sleepy but safe, held the glowing crystal in her tiny hands and whispered, "Fire." Viren kissed her forehead. "You saved her again," she said. "Why?" Jack stared at the fire for a long moment. Then he answered in a low voice, "Because someone should have saved my sister." When no one did, Viren didn't ask more. She didn't need to. The silence said enough. That night, they shared the last food pack. No one spoke much. But something had changed. Viren no longer saw Jack as a stranger, and Jack no longer saw this frozen world as just a mission. He saw it as a promise. But peace never lasted long. Just before sunrise, the beacon blinked again. This time, it wasn't a signal from Jack. It was a message. "Incoming vessel. Unknown ID. Heavy weapons detected." Jack stood up slowly. He looked at Viren. "I think the real storm is still coming." The sky cracked open with golden light. Not sunlight. Thruster fire. A massive ship hovered above the icy plains, casting a long shadow over the shelter. Viren stepped out and stared upward, shielding her eyes. It was beautiful, sleek, shining, and powerful, a symbol of hope. Or so she thought. Jack stepped out beside her, scanning the ship's markings. His jaw clenched. "That's not a rescue ship," he said. Viren frowned. "Then who is it?" He didn't answer, because he already knew. A voice echoed from the ship, cold and clear through the comm system. "This is Commander Ralvik of the Iron Reavers. We detected a human distress beacon. Turn over the child, and we will leave you unharmed." Viren's blood froze. "They want my child?" Jack didn't move. His voice was like steel. They trade in rare genes. Your daughter is part of a cold-resistant species. She's worth a lot to them. Viren felt sick. They're slavers? Worse, Jack said. They're businessmen. The ship landed. The snow around it turned to mist from the heat. 10 armored figures stepped out. One of them held up a scanner. The child is inside. This will be quick. Jack raised his weapon and stepped in front of the shelter door. You'll have to go through. M.E. Ralvik walked forward, grinning. I was hoping you'd say that, Holloway. Viren's eyes widened. He knows you? Jack didn't look away from the commander. He used to be my commander. Back before I knew what kind of monster he really was. Ralvik smiled wider. Still playing hero, I see. You should have stayed dead. Jack raised his blaster. I got better. The first shot rang out. Fire and light filled the ice. Jack moved too fast for most eyes to follow. He shot one raider in the leg, another in the chest. But they were too many. Viren grabbed Lena and ducked behind the wall, heart pounding. She could hear Jack yelling over the blasts. Run! Get to the back, don't stop. But she didn't run. Not this time. She picked up a blaster from a fallen soldier. It felt heavy, strange, wrong in her hands, but she gripped it anyway. I'm not letting him fight alone, she whispered. She stepped into the cold. Jack was wounded again, burn across his side. Bleeding from the arm, Ralvik raised a heavy rifle and aimed. But before he could shoot, a bolt of energy hit him from the side. He stumbled. He turned and saw Viren standing there, hands shaking, eyes full of fire. You want my child? She said. Come and bleed for her. The battle turned. Side by side. Human and alien fought like they were one. They were no longer victims. They were protectors. Finally, the last of the Reavers fell. Ralvik crawled backward, wounded, growling. Jack walked up to him and pointed the blaster at his head. Ralvik laughed through the blood. You think killing me will change anything? Jack looked at him with cold eyes. No, but it'll make me feel better. Later, silence returned. Smoke rose from the snow. Lena was safe in her mother's arms. Viren looked at Jack, covered in ash and bruises, and said, I never thought I could fight, but I did. Jack gave her a tired smile. You were always stronger than you knew. As they sat together, watching the wreckage burn, a distant beacon flashed again. This one was real. Jack looked up. That's my team. For real this time. Viren blinked tears away. Will you go? Jack was quiet, then said, only if you both come with me. The sky was finally blue, but Jack didn't smile. He stood at the edge of the crash site, staring at the blinking light in the distance. The real rescue ship was coming. But so were more eyes. Trouble never stayed quiet for long. Behind him, Viren wrapped her sleeping daughter in warm cloth made from salvaged gear. She asked for you, Viren said softly, before she fell asleep. Jack turned, surprised. She asked for me? Viren nodded. She called you uncle. That's what she called my brother. He died last winter. Jack looked down, quiet. He had no family left, but now. Maybe he did. A sound broke the moment. A ship. Small. Fast. Not the rescue team, but someone else. It landed without warning. Black armor. Silent soldiers. A private security force. The kind hired by people with too much money and no heart. The leader stepped out. A tall woman with pale green skin and silver eyes. I'm here for the child, she said. She was marked as property in the Reaver system. Now she belongs to my client. Viren stepped forward. She is not property. The woman raised an eyebrow. The contract says otherwise. Jack stepped between them. I don't care what. The contract says. She's under my protection. The woman tilted her head. You're just one human, wounded and half frozen. Jack aimed his blaster. That's all it takes. A long silence followed. The wind moved the ash across the snow. The woman raised her hand, and her guards readied their weapons. Viren grabbed Lena and moved behind the wreckage. Eyes full of fire. Jack didn't flinch. I've already fought. Reavers, he said coldly. I'll fight you too. I've got nothing left to lose. The silver-eyed woman paused. Then surprisingly, she laughed. I believe you, she said, but maybe there's a deal to be made. Jack narrowed his eyes. What kind of deal? The woman stepped closer. Give me the child. I take her. You and the alien woman go free. No records, no hunting. You start fresh. Jack looked at Viren. She clutched her daughter tightly, shaking her head slowly, silently begging. Jack turned back to the woman and said, Here's my deal. You leave. You don't come back. Or I bury every one of you under this snow. The woman smiled again, but it was tight now. Forced. You just declared war, human. Jack smirked. Been fighting one my whole life. What happened next was fast. Too fast for fear. Blasters fired. Snow exploded. Jack moved like a shadow. Viren took cover, shielding Lena with her body. One by one, the guards dropped. Until only the silver-eyed woman remained. She raised her hand in surrender. Enough. I'm not dying for this job. Jack lowered his weapon. Slowly, then walk away. She turned and ran back to her ship. They watched as it rose into the sky and vanished. Silence returned. The blue sky stretched wide above them. Viren looked at Jack, tears in her eyes. You could have died. Why do you keep risking your life for us? Jack stepped closer. He looked at Lena, then at Viren. And said, Because for the first time in my life, I know what family feels like. Then a soft roar filled the air. The real rescue ship. Jack reached down and gently picked up Lena. She's safe now, he whispered, and she's not going anywhere. Viren took his hand. This time, she didn't feel afraid. This time, she felt home. The rescue ship doors opened, and for the first time in weeks, warm air touched Viren's skin. But it wasn't the heat that made her breath catch. It was the smell of bread. Real bread. Fresh, soft human food. A small thing. But to her, it felt like a miracle. She looked down at her daughter, still in Jack's arms, fast asleep and wrapped in his coat. Then she looked at Jack. You smell that? She whispered. Jack nodded, smiling. Smells like a second chance. Inside the ship, everything felt unreal. Clean seats, bright lights, calm voices, no blizzards, no weapons. A medic came to take Lena gently from Jack's arms. But the child woke and screamed, holding on tightly to his sleeve. She's scared. Viren said quickly. Jack touched Lena's hair and spoke softly. It's okay, little one. I'm not going anywhere. Only then did she let go. Later, while Lena rested in a warm bed, Viren stood near the window, watching stars drift by. Jack joined her, a healing patch on his arm. Where are we going? She asked. Human colony, Jack said. Safer place. Open to refugees. You'll have food, heat, protection. Viren looked at him, eyes uncertain. Will you be there too? Jack didn't answer right away. Then he said, Not if you don't. Want me? She blinked. I want you to. For a long time they stood without speaking. Two strangers who had once feared each other, now bound by fire, storm, and sacrifice. Weeks later, a small home on a quiet human colony. Simple, safe, Viren stepped out onto the balcony. Flowers grew in little boxes. Lena chased a ball in the garden, laughing freely. Inside, Jack cooked something that smelled half-burnt. Viren smiled. She never thought peace would smell like burned eggs. At night, they sat by the indoor fire. This time not to survive, but just to be warm. Viren watched Lena sleep, curled up beside the human coat that once saved her life. She turned to Jack. You changed everything, she said. Jack shook his head. No, you did. She leaned closer, her voice soft. I had never seen compassion until I met you. He looked into her eyes. I had never felt like I belonged until I met both of you. Outside, stars blinked gently. The ice storm was far behind them now, but something stronger had taken its place. A new fire, one that would never go out.